Draw last night, opening game. What have you taken from that over the last 7 days?
I think, listen, at the risk of making excuses, which I'm certainly not an excuse maker, I think that it was tough conditions. It's that opening game. You're playing against a team that are quite clearly full of a lot of spirit and a lot of confidence coming off the back of winning the championship. So no, we knew it was going to be a tough game, and I think probably my summary after the game was fair. I still think that it was a fair enough draw. I think that, you know, you can break it down whatever way you look at it. You know, we had by far and away the most possession. Dundee had some decent opportunities. We probably could have capitalised on playing in the final third a wee bit more than we did, and we had a real good sort of rally in the last sort of 10 minutes of the game where I felt that we looked like the side that was going to win. So there were good aspects. I spoke about the goal we conceded, which was poor from our point of view, but the first aspect for me is to get back in with the players, identify it and try and rectify it as quick as we possibly can. So I genuinely believe that we'll get better through time, as most teams probably will at this stage of the season, and also in the knowledge that we've got a few extra players to add to that as well, that gives us a wee bit more strength and depth, and gives us different opportunities, different changes that we can make throughout the 90 plus minutes as it will be in the campaign. So no, all in all, a fair result, and from my point of view, no too despondent in the performance.
You talk about more players. How's the fitness looking ahead of this weekend? You got more players coming back?
Yeah, well, we're as I spoke to you guys about last week, we were missing John Obika. Mika Biereth was just short in terms of making the bench, and Harry Payton. These guys are making strides to be fit. It might again come a fraction too early for one or two of them, but we'll just monitor that. Obviously, with the game being on the Sunday, we've still got Friday, Saturday training sessions, which is good for us and gives us a chance maybe just push them a wee bit closer to certainly being in contention for the squad, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Talk about the game then. What did you make of his performance last night? And I was speaking to Derek McInnes yesterday. Obviously Kilmarnock got Hearts at the weekend. He was saying he doesn't think it's an advantage for you, the fact that you've got a whole week and that they've only got a few days. He said he didn't think it was an advantage. He would rather be playing in Europe, you know, keep playing games, getting more up to speed with big matches. How do you view that? I
tend to agree with that, to be honest with you. I think, yeah, for the likes of myself and Derek, we'll spend a lot of time trying to prep and prepare our teams. But I think always my mentality has been, as a player, I would certainly want to be playing at the highest level, coming off the back of a really good result, which Hibs did last night. And in the end, probably for Hearts, at half time, maybe looked as if it would have been a worse situation, and managing to get that goal back gives them a real chance in that tie going back to Tynecastle. So I would always opt for that. But that said, we are dealt the other situation. We're not in Europe, and we have that week to spend to prepare for the game, so we have to make use of it as best we possibly can. And the other thing it throws up as well can be, I was going to say, a bit of uncertainty, but you know, that's the opportunity for the likes of Hibs or Hearts to play a different way, which we all do our due diligence. We all spend time looking at the next opponent. So for us looking at it last night, you know, it was very evident that Hibs were playing the 4-4-2 system, two out and out strikers, two, you know, natural goal threats with two wingers. That's maybe not necessarily what they've done throughout pre-season. So from that point of view, it throws in another what if. And for that, we just have to be prepared for it. We have to make sure that our players are aware of it. And the other factor as well is that the Hibs team could look completely different here on Sunday at 3 o'clock because they have so many options. They have a big squad. They've obviously invested heavily. One or two new players coming in. You know, you watched the lad Dylan Vente last night, looked impressive. I think his goal scoring record is top drawer, hence why Hibs pay such a big fee for him. So, you know, with guys like that coming in, Martin Boyle coming off the back of a long-term injury, the question marks posed, how many games can these guys play in a short space of time? I'll not be able to answer that question, but I think we have to just make sure that we're braced for what might come.
You expect them to be buoyed by that result?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I thought the atmosphere at Easter Road was excellent last night. I thought in large stages of the game, Hibs were impressive. It was a very good European performance against what has to be said was a strong side as well. You know, looking at the Swiss side, and I thought that they had some good players in their ranks as well. But yeah, I think the Hibs players, staff, fans will come off the back of that feeling good about themselves, and it's just really important that here on Sunday that we try and stem that flow, that we try and plant a seed of doubt somewhere. You know, again, the knee-jerk reaction in football has been relatively negative to a couple of the Hibs results, and we have to try and make sure in the first 10 or 15 minutes of the game that we can really put a stamp on it whereby, as I say, that we can cast that seed of doubt and start to frustrate them and make life difficult for them. I think if we let them get ahead of steam up like they did at certain times last night, then it becomes a difficult afternoon.
Just finally, from you talking about that, the first 10-15 minutes important. How much are you looking forward to games here at Fir Park this season, and how important is it to, as we saw at the end of last season, fans on your side, get them on your side early, try and put teams that come here on the back foot right from the get-go?
Yeah, I think it's massive. I did inherit a situation so well documented from everybody. You guys in the media spoke about it long and hard, but it was spoke about at the football club. You look at the place, and I don't want to sound too corny here, but I get a lift every day. I come in and I look out my office window and I see that pitch. I see the work that's been done and the infrastructure around about the stadium. It's a proper football stadium with a really loyal following. We heard the atmosphere at Dens Park with the supporters. I think somewhere near the regions of 1,000 supporters we had on Saturday, and I think that's so important that we get off on the right step, because we found it so hard to win games here prior to sort of February. And I think the people throw in the excuse of but the pitch is incredible and the other team gets a lift. We need to get a lift. We have to feel good about it when we come here. And historically for me, I've always found Fir Park, I said this to you guys last season, I've always found Fir Park such a difficult place to come and play. As a player, to coach, to manage, it's always been a difficult place. So I think we should probably shelve the excuses and just rather than talking about how good the pitch is and how good the place looks and other teams get a lift, I think we need to make sure that it's us that get the lift from it. And every time somebody comes here to play against us, they know they've been in a game of football, and I think that has to be a part of our makeup and our identity, if you want to call it that. That's something that we've spoke about a lot. I don't feel that I've had to touch on it too much over pre-season, because we felt that we tried to right that wrong from before. And I think that the players and the staff round about this place, and especially the supporters that come here and their numbers, the road that one, the road 100% commitment, and the road an organisation, and therefore everything else that comes from it, be it our creativity, us taking opportunities when they come our way, those are the add-ons to the fundamentals.
Dundee scored his first Hibs goal last night. I think some people suggesting the fee for him was around about £700,000. Can that be quite daunting, seeing the money that Hibs have spent? Because of course when you play Rangers and Celtic, the resources are far bigger, but it seems this year that gap between the top five and the rest of the league is getting even bigger. Can that be quite scary?
It's not daunting. I tell you, the daunting bit about it was when I got a message from somebody in the media asking if it was us that was signing him. I think there was a rumour floating about that somebody in Scottish football was signing him. I nearly fell off my seat when I heard the money. But yeah, you're right. Hibs, a club the size of Hibs, and the financial power, if you like, that those clubs do have is substantial. It's significantly greater than ourselves. I should imagine they'll be favourites on that basis, and a lot of games are going into this season, not just potentially at the weekend. But as we all know, football's it's not played on a spreadsheet and it's not played by numbers. I know myself and many others in the game, we talk about it because it is relevant to a point, what opportunity you have to strengthen your team. Of course, you would like that blank canvas and you'd like to spend fortunes and bring in the best quality players that you can bring in. But always a part of my makeup has been that development, the coaching, the preparation for games again. And I'm not reinventing the wheel in comparison to other managers in the country, but we have to be very good at that, because the one thing I know we can't do is we can't just go out and start spending six figures and plus on players. So we have to try and make up for that in other aspects and be really slick and good in other areas. So that does excite me. That's a bit that I enjoy. That's a bit that watching that player development, be it a young player or a guy that's played 200-300 games, that's a bit that, as I say, that wakes me up in the morning, and that's a bit that gets me coming in here with a spring in my step. And I think if we create that environment, I think the players enjoy it as well. I know the staff enjoy it. It's what we work towards. Sometimes it's not that fair fight that I speak of, purely on the numbers, but I think we showed in several occasions last year that we can still be a match for a lot of clubs, and that's what we've been intending to be again on Sunday.
Can we expect any more in the door in the next 3 weeks?
No different from what I said last week. We're not in a position to bring anybody else in unless we can change a situation where a player or two going out. So that's exactly where we are, and there's been no movement on that front to update you with.
Yeah, going out, there was some rumours yesterday suggesting that Dundee are interested in Sean Goss. Is there any truth in that?
I've no idea. You would need to ask Sean Goss. You would need to ask his agent. The one thing I could give you is that we spent an awful lot of time trying to keep Sean at Motherwell. We liked him an awful lot, both as a player and as a boy. We tried hard. We spent probably extra time than what I would like trying to offer him a deal and try to see if we could get something done. And the situation was left that Sean wants to play abroad, so that was where it was. I had a really good relationship with him, as I say, top player, and an even better guy, to be honest with you. So that was the situation as we seen it. If that changes and you find Sean coming back to Scotland, then as I say, we offered them the best deal that we possibly had. So that situation's firmly out of our hands.
Stuart, obviously Joe Efford got a taste of action last weekend. You pleased that he's now making his way back? You feel he can fit in with your system, and you played wide a lot last season, but you can obviously play through the middle as well?
Yeah, I think the most important part is that Joe needs to try and stay fit and shows his qualities. It's been a hard time for him, obviously a long-term injury, and then from that there's been a lot of stop-start moments. There's been a lot of inconsistency. I'm sure Joe will hold his hands up to that as well. And sort of reserve games to try and get himself back to full fitness pre-season, and even in training sessions and things like that. So I'm always a great believer that we can't just go from zero to sort of full throttle. There has to be a period of time where an individual shows you that they can be trusted and that they're offering something on the pitch. They're showing you quality, and they're showing that they can actually play in your system and they can play in a setup of what you're trying to do, because as I've said to you before, we come to a conclusion of how we were going to play, not to say that that's always going to be the same way, but initially that successful kind of change of shape, change of setup was based on the players that we had at the football club. So it's not a case of me then having to change what I do based on a player or two players. It's very much that the group of players led me to a solution. So you're speaking about Joe specifically, then he needs to become a guy that shows me that he can play in that setup. And he obviously gets his opportunity to come on at Dens Park, and that was specifically again, we're lacking striker options. Mika Biereth not available, John Abika not available, and Joe became that next guy in line that we thought might have been able to freshen things up.
Can I ask you about the reserves? I noticed that you weren't in the reserve league fixtures. What are you doing with your kind of second team, your development service?
Again, we have changed it behind the scenes. Everybody speaks about cutting costs, which is absolutely the case. We had more than 50 players, I think it was, at the football club last season, and I've been a kind of driving force in that. I feel that everybody that's at the football club must have a realistic opportunity to play in your first team. Not being disrespectful to anybody, but for us to run with another sort of 15, 16 players at the football club that aren't pushing to be in your first team, it's not sustainable for a club like Motherwell. So what we've had to do is we've had to try and taper that down. We've had to trim that, and very much our focus comes on that under 18s group that we have, the loan system that we want to try and utilise. I think currently we've got sort of 4 or 5 with potentially more going out on loan, and what we've done is we've sort of, as you do at Motherwell, we don't go and get a loans manager into the football club, but I've asked a member of staff to take that on as part of his remit to really focus in on that and make sure that we're finding the correct loans for players, so that when they come back and they've played, be it half a season or a full season, it's linked to improving and developing their specific attributes, but also it gives them a real chance to come back and play in our first team. So that's kind of where we've segregated it. A lot of the guys that can still play for 18s have been a part of our first team squad over pre-season, and you've seen the obvious ones that are on the bench and in the starting 11. So we just feel that that's the best way, sort of financially, if you like, for the football club, but also to make sure that if you're here, it's not just for a year, 2 year where you train with Motherwell and you've got no prospect of playing in the first team. And all round, I'd sort of made the suggestion, and I think that the board agreed that was going to be the best fit for Motherwell, at least this season, but potentially beyond that as well.
Stuart, you mentioned that Hibs playing on Thursday doesn't give them a disadvantage, but is it maybe a distraction that you can take advantage of, given that they could be playing Aston Villa?
There's 100 different ways we could look at it. One thing I know is that if Hibs can get through that tie, then there's a massive carrot dangled at the end of it. I spoke to a few of their officials and a few people around about the stadium last night, and rightfully so. That's a lucrative tie potentially waiting for them at the other end of it. But again, there's any number of proper first team players that are sitting on their bench that will want to get the opportunity if they get it on Sunday. So sometimes that can elevate the levels, the energy levels, the quality, whatever. So there's so many different ways we look at it. Can fatigue kick in, that hangover of a good result or whatever? Who knows? Who knows? I think we just have to be our best version, and we just have to concentrate on ourselves and make sure again that our players know what they might potentially face. And if we're at our best, we'll give ourselves a chance in the game. It's as simple as that.
Does Mika Biereth come in potentially?
Yeah, he's trained tail end of last week. He got 2 sessions in, and he's been able to train 3 sessions before today, this week as well. So it's just a case of, he missed a couple of weeks in at Arsenal, so it's just a case of us trying to get as much content into him as we possibly can. Go and work away with him over the next couple of days, but I'm fairly certain that he pushes himself into the reckoning of at least being involved in the squad.
How good a signing is he for you?
Tell you in a year's time.